With what human rights organizations call one of the most repressive countries in the planet. For nearly 20 years, the current military regime has ruled Myanmar with fear, with forced labor, with violence. Today, despite threats from the government, thousands of protesters returned to the streets for the 10th straight day, calling for an end to the dictatorship. We begin today from neighboring Thailand and our senior foreign correspondent, Jim Shudo.
We're monitoring events here in Thailand because foreign journalists are still officially banned from Myanmar. But inside the country, an underground campaign is underway to get images of the violence out on the internet. This is what a revolution looks like in the internet age. Protests are strictly banned in Myanmar, and so is news coverage of them. But today, citizens and undercover journalists are recording the violence for the world to see. The government threatened to shoot protesters if they continue, and when tens of thousands defied it, police made good on the threat, firing automatic weapons into the crowds. ABC News producer is on the ground in the capital, Yangon.
Everybody here knows that this military is not joking when they issue threats like that. So it really does show how strongly these people believe in their cause, that they were out on the streets today marching again.
By the end of the day, even Myanmar's state media confirmed 9 deaths, one of them this Japanese cameraman. What began as a peaceful protest is now a direct clash between Myanmar's people and the government.
Things have moved in the direction of instability very, very quickly and much faster than many of Burma's neighbors ever expected.
The day began with police raiding monasteries to silence the monks who have led the protests, but civilians quickly replaced them.
This is MRTV3, Myanmar International, Yangon.
Today, state television claimed demonstrators were being coerced and accused the foreign media of lying. Each day, the government is applying more force and the protesters showing more defiance, and so democracy activists inside and outside the country are fearing more violence tomorrow. Jim Shudo, ABC News, Bangkok.
The demonstrations are being referred to as the Saffron Revolution after the saffron yellow robes worn by the monks who were first to take to the streets. ABC's Hillary Brown traveled into Myanmar several years ago working undercover. Here are some snapshots of her experience there.
The monks were always the most revered members of Burmese society and the most open. 12 years ago, they welcomed me into this monastery near Mandalay, saying they kept well away from politics. But later, another monk approached me, saying they were afraid to talk.
Yes, they're afraid to talk.
What happens if they talk politics?
What is the very easy to go to Moscow.
Very easy to go to Moscow. You mean to prison?
Yes.
Human rights groups say that tens of thousands of Burmese have been jailed without trial for criticizing the regime, advocating democracy, or just talking to foreigners. Raymond Yetun was one of them. He spent 12 years in jail.
I lived in complete isolation, total solitary confinement for nearly 4 years. I was not allowed to speak to anyone.
By nature, the Burmese are friendly and full of fun. On a boat trip down the Irrawaddy River, a young girl insisted on giving me a Burmese makeup job, rubbing sandalwood into my cheeks to protect them from the blistering sun.
I'll never get it off.
It's also supposed to beautify. The regime was about to launch a campaign to bring 500,000 tourists a year into its secretive, repressive state, as I reported at the time. The campaign fell short of its target. The military junta hopes that its tourism campaign will add millions to the national budget, half of which is spent on defense. Yet the Burmese government isn't at war with anybody, except possibly its own people. On the streets, where most things in Burma are bought and sold, one of the busiest traders is the bird seller. For a few pennies, you can buy a small bird, not to take home and put in a cage, but to set free. Then and now, freedom is what everyone dreams of. Hillary Brown, ABC News.